feels crazy.
Kirk, get in here!
Welcome to this video on how harsh vocals are created. We're going inside some of the most extensive vocal research ever, period. And I want you to watch this whole video straight through so that you get the big, awesome picture, and then navigate back to the convenient chapters that we've bookmarked for your further viewing. Each chapter is based on procedures we conducted. The first is a comprehensive acoustic analysis. Next is a laryngoscopy with respiratory kinematics, which means we put a camera down his throat and took breath measurements. The third test is a laryngeal EMG, aka tiny electric needles in throat to measure muscle activation while singing. The final procedure is a dynamic MRI, which shows real-time video of laryngeal anatomy in action. This wasn't possible just a few years ago. The tech wasn't there. We work with a team of the most accomplished vocal researchers in the world, located at the University of Utah, who helped develop these procedures. Will Ramos is the extraordinary and very brave artist who volunteered. When Will and I met about 3 years ago on a Zoom interview, I couldn't have imagined the friendship that would develop and eventually transform how the world understands singing. I'm Elizabeth Zharoff, and along with the Charismatic voice community, we are on the leading edge of vocal research, which I'm so excited to share now with you. Let's get to it.
Yes.
Are those the sugar-free kind?
No.
You want some sugar-free ones?
No. That's straight gelatin. Just eating raw pig.
Over these next couple days, I'm really excited to just be surrounded by scientists and just have researchers and see what people that are not in the metal world actually have to think about metal screams. Because for a long time, people are like, I don't care about that. It's all bad. It's all wrong. So I'm very interested to see what they think, how all the vocalizations work on a scientific level.
Raw pig.
I don't know, wherever this thing.
That's bacon.
What is it, horse?
That's glue. Horses is glue.
These procedures are so much more extensive than the first time. Things like muscle activation is something we can't see when we're just putting a camera down somebody's throat. And we're actually going to be able to see that. In the MRI, we're going to be able to see the different structures moving. We're going to be able to take this incredible, almost like 3D model, sort of repiece things together and see all of the different layers in Will's throat, maybe even then be able to identify all of the sound sources.
As we've done these research studies and all this, I've come to learn a lot more about my own screams, where, these different sources are, and it's pretty much, it might just be the same 3 or 4 sources, but you're just changing the whole filter system, and that helps me get a little bit more technical with it, and I think that's very beneficial for somebody like me who's trying to basically do vocal gymnastics the entire time I'm on stage.
Became interested in the scientific components of extreme vocals after I met Elizabeth, and it was really the first time I had given much thought to understanding extremes of vocalizing. We have a narrow scope of practice, and when Elizabeth kind of approached me about that first project that we did with Will, I had to change the way in which I thought about human vocalization. These vocalists were able to do something so extremely different than what I had studied. It took me out of my comfort zone, honestly, at first, and I think my expression on that first video really captured the way that I felt seeing the larynx perform during those different extreme vocalizations and screams. I'd never seen anything like it.
I'm Ingo Tietze, and I'm a physicist and a voice scientist who coined the word vocology, which is the study of all vocalization. And that's what we're here to talk about, right?
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
I've been interested in that for a long, long time because I study animal vocalization as well as human vocalization. The sounds that Will makes, and many people are doing now for performance, have been made by birds and mammals for a long, long time. If you compare, for example, the sounds that a raven makes, or a crow as we call it, they have all of those sounds that are now made by humans. components. We call them caws and croaks and rattles and clicks and all of these various different names.
I think that most people think of harsh vocals as just screaming, that people are ripping apart their vocal cords, probably doing a ton of damage.
There is a stigma that harsh vocalizations are harmful, hurtful, cause problems and injury.
And we know that is simply not the case. We know from the previous time when Will had that first camera put down his throat, we know that he can make these sounds in a healthy way.
These are not treatment-seeking artists. That's the other thing, is why I don't think there's been much work in this, is these artists have not sought treatment like we see in other genres, which has to make you question something is safely happening, that the term is not aligning with how these sounds are being produced and what the listener ultimately perceives.
This particular primal vocalization is what I would call it. In fact, that's probably the better term to use. Has not been explored much in the past, but as we're proving here today, is as instrumentation gets better, then we have a better chance of studying things that are fairly complex. The harsh vocalization all happens in this region, a few centimeters above the true vocal folds. And we have not been able to look at that very well at times past. And I think that's the reason it hasn't been studied much. But now, with current instrumentation, we're getting there.
It's our job as scientists, as people excited about learning about these type of extreme vocalizations, the discussion has to come back to the term, has to align with what is being done. And the science has to drive these terms, because otherwise they become irrelevant, misleading, misnomers. And our job is to redo that.
There's a lot more to learn so that we can expand that knowledge to other people.
This is going to be one of those things that's going to be an eye-opener for a lot more people, and I'm hoping that it'll even help draw people into the metal world a little bit more, especially as they find out, oh, you could do this healthily.
Alrighty, Dr. Smith, we are ready for you. You're on.
Here we go. This one's definitely for Mom.
Thank
You
Dr.
better
Smith.
get a good video of this one.
Like, what are they doing?
We're embarking on doing kind of 4 procedures. The first is something we're all very familiar with, which is an acoustic analysis, where we can break down individual screams, individual sounds from Will acoustically. So these are things we can hear, we can see. Elizabeth discusses this a lot on her channel. The second is the laryngoscopy. We need to repeat the scope into the back of the throat while we get to simultaneously take respiratory kinematic measures from Will. We can isolate out what the relative contribution of his rib cage and his abdomen, his pressures and flows that actually initiate vocal fold vibration and oscillation, as well as the supraglottic sound structures. And then the bonus is we're going to place those needles with electrodes on them, measuring each individual muscle activation. So not anything combined. We're going to take in each of his pitch muscles, his main vocal fold muscle, the thyrohyoid space, the base of tongue involvement, all of this simultaneously. What we're going to get to see is these raw EMG, these raw muscle activation plots, rib cage and diaphragm, and the laryngoscopy all at the same time for each scream, watching that online in real time. And then we get to put that with the 4th component, which is the dynamic MRI. We have a novel approach that has never been used before to try and analyze again in real time Will's vocalizations and his screams in MRI. We're all familiar with what it looks like when we look at an MRI image, but what we aren't able always to capture is the time. What happens as Will is screaming with each of his structures? The final component of all of the data that will come from each of these individual tests or procedures that we're embarking on will be our ability to, in a 3-dimensional reconstruction, reconfigure Will's entire vocal tract from these MR images. So each of the slices that we'll take from his nose all the way down to the bottom of the subglottis or into the trachea, we can then volumetrically look at that into what we see as the human voice. Uniquely, that gives us these cross-sectional areas then that we can computationally now manipulate, constrict, expand, inform. So we have these screams that we'll reconstruct the vocal tract for. And then we go back through in a computational model and manipulate each of those parameters. Then we get the absolute contribution of what are his vocal folds actually doing? What is the ventricular folds doing? What happens in the pharynx? What happens above at the lips and the tongue and the soft palate? Each of these anatomical structures that we've never been able to break apart before, because in laryngoscopy, our images can become obstructed. And as we saw from Will's first video, which has informed how we're gonna handle these next set of procedures, that there is so much constriction, so much movement, so much geometric shape change in his throat, that the only way to be able to see that individually is through these MRs and through these muscle activations.
Hi, I'm Lynn Maxfield. I am the director of the Utah Center for Vocology at the University of Utah. I'm also on faculty in the School of Music as associate professor. Our ear picks up high frequency sounds and low frequency sounds and mixes them all together, and that gives us our total perception of timbre. And so one of the assessments that we can use, or one of the acoustic measurements that we can use, is what's called the spectral centroid, or the spectral center of gravity. So it's going to take a picture, essentially, of the sound signal from low to high, and it's going to tell us where the center of that signal is.
All right, let's jump into it.
Okay, Will, cleans
So it's going to tell us exactly where the center of that signal lies, and that's going to move considerably based on the type of sound source that Will is using, as well as, I suspect, any of these filters that he's adding.
Clean what?
And E. Once more.
So if we think about the voice traditionally as a sound source and then a filter that applies, that selectively boosts or attenuates certain bands of frequency, what's interesting to me is that the sound source that he's using is very variable.
He is good to go on the tube and throat.
The sound source itself is creating an interesting spectrum that we don't see from normal periodic voicing that we would associate with regular voice. But then he's tying on really dramatic shifts in the shape of the airway above whatever is oscillating, whatever the sound source is he's using. And the way that those are combining is really fascinating.
Okay, try an O.
Whew. It's getting hot in here already.
Okay, I think that's
Nice.
How about an ooh? Can you get to an ooh? Amazing. All right. Done with your tea kettles.
That was I have never done those before like that, so that was interesting.
In a normal voicing, we get a sort of predictable sound source, and then we apply a filter to it through the vocal tract, and we can sort of predict what that sound's going to sound like. And those predictions all go out the window when I can't tell what the sound source actually is yet. So I'm really excited to analyze these acoustics and see what we can peel apart from what's the sound source and what's the filter. It's going to be a totally different view of voicing than we've had before. So one of the challenges with acoustic analysis of this type of sound is that there is limited periodic voicing, meaning pure voice sounds, or what we would call here clean sounds, where we're getting a regular signal, a regular repetition of the signal. Instead, we have this very rough signal, a rough sound with a lot of variation in the signal.
When we sing, we want to express our feelings and we want to express messages. And in order to do the message and the emotion that goes with it, we need a large inventory of sounds. And they range all the way from, say, something like whistle voice, which is a very, very pure high-pitched sound, to the rough sounds and everything in between. And it's just like painting a canvas with colors. You want to have as many colors as you can get. And we want many, many tone colors.
Can you do vowels on this? Ah.
No, I don't think so. They're usually, I guess there are a lot of oohs.
I call that's ah enough. Let's try and move through them. Let's see what happens. So try an ah with an ooh feel to it.
An ah with an ooh.
Uh-huh. Now see if you can get an E feel in there. Once more. Now an eh.
That's a new one. I never did that one before.
The acoustic testing was incredible. Will slammed through those sounds so quickly. I was in the booth with him, giving him prompts. We worked that list of prompts out ahead of time. We practiced it, and that made it so we were able to just like boom, 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 boom through each of these sounds. As I was listening to Will make all of these sounds in the booth, I was thinking again about what do I like about a scream? What makes a good scream to me? And when he adds these overtones, it's almost like tube and throat singing overtones to his screams. He does that, I think, in some of the pig squeals extra.
Nice! Nailed it that time. It just,
you like your tube and throat singing overtones were like there, and now
it's all about because when you do those cool gutturals, you want to. I feel like it looks cool, like it sounds cooler.
That to me makes this more complex sound that is just really, really exciting.
You made that heavy? Again? Oh. You're impressive. Beautiful. That is awesome. Thank you.
Sweet.
So we're going to do a test here. This is an aerodynamic setup. We're going to do a test where we measure your airflow here quickly. You're just going to hold up that ah for me.
No problem.
I want you to have a seal around the nose and the mouth with that mask. Good. We're going to do a fry scream. Beautiful.
Wow, it sounds so bad in here. But once I take it off, I'm like, okay, that's what it's supposed to sound. I'm like, I am doing this right, right?
You are.
Pulse chords.
Yep.
Wow, it almost sounds like a crazy guttural because it's getting like super cupped through this thing.
Yes. For the false. Did you feel like you used more or less airflow?
More
tea
airflow.
kettle compared to the false?
False chords will always use more airflow.
More airflow. Look at that. It's almost a quadruple from where your tea kettles are way down here on your flow to way up here for the false.
I feel like when I do the false, I'm pushing out as much air as I can, and when I do the tea kettle, I have to have a healthy balance of not pushing out too much air, but also whatever, compressing by actual, constricting it.
Let's look at a goblin. Beautiful. Those feel about the same in airflow for the false to the goblin, about the same feeling. And then last one, gov. Okay. So
Those definitely have the most, I feel like.
they actually are, I mean, again, we haven't analyzed them yet, but visual, like on visual inspection, they look about the same. What's interesting is the sound pressure level. Now this is a relative sound pressure level. We didn't calibrate for it on this like we did in your acoustics. But you generate enough intensity as you did when you did a doubling of your loudness from your comfortable up to, and I was like, okay, now I make you twice as loud there. Right. That's about the amount of intensity, pressure, sound pressure level, loudness.
That when I scream at?
When you're screaming.
All right, well.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Good old fashioned,
We are going to start with a procedure called a laryngoscopy, sometimes also known as an endoscopy. The purpose of our camera here is to look into the back of your throat, to look at the structures that you use to vocalize.
All right, so we're gonna skip cleans at this point. Let's go straight for some tube and throat singing.
Nice.
Awesome.
Beast mode. Ooh, hold on. Oh, that's weird.
Move your body over here. I'm gonna let you, will you gently? Yep, that was not gentle.
Oh.
Silly.
I feel like I just gotta get, I feel like I got shit in there.
You're perfect, I love it.
That is gorgeous. Good, Will. I don't think we need any more tea kettles.
Thank fucking God.
No, great. Let's go for a pig squeal. Oh. Or sorry, pig squeal reed.
That's what I thought.
Gorgeous. Can you go a fry high and then a false chord high? Awesome, thank you so much. And let's do a false chord tunnel scream. Amazing. We're gonna skip the nasals again.
Take a chance, swallow.
Yeah. You want some more water?
Sip, sip.
Sip, sip.
Will has these different screams that he has begun to catalog for himself. Things that he feels, things that he hears, sensations, the combination of all of it. And what he's brought to us as a research team is his unique understanding of his own sound, of his own feelings, and then us being able to map that onto him anatomically. Anything you ask him to do, his first response is, I don't know if I can do that, I'll try though. And he does it, and he does it to perfection.
Well, done with scoping.
Woohoo! Yay!
Hello. Just a reminder, arms up.
Arms up.
Yeah.
Arms up. She's gonna give it a go.
Oh.
Yeah. Never realized you'd be so,
Clean.
Out of all the procedures that we're doing, there's one that I'd be a little bit afraid of, where you stick the needles in the neck. I know it sounds crazy. I imagined in my mind, just like you go to acupuncture and there's just like, you get a whole bunch of needles shoved in one place, but then they kind of just stay there and you leave it there for a little while, and I guess that's what you're supposed to do. So in my mind, I pictured something like that. They're just like, yeah, we're gonna stab you with needles, you're gonna scream. I'm like, sweet, that's awesome. Not really, because I'm imagining just me screaming and the needles just kind of flying around, and I don't know. So that was how I imagined it. I was at first a little apprehensive about it, but I feel a little better.
So, Will, we're gonna do a spirometry test on you now. Your nose is plugged so that air doesn't come out of the nose. This is gonna go inside the mouth like a scuba snorkel.
I know what snorkel looks like.
Yep, and you're welcome to use
How do I do that?
Yep, with both hands. Perfect, beautiful. Your teeth have a comfortable spot. That looks excellent.
Just keep breathing in. Fill those lungs all the way. Keep going. Great.
36.5.
All right, and breathe out. And
And if my mom saw this, she would be so concerned about what the hell's going on here.
Take a picture for her, don't worry.
Oh my God!
I think your mom might see this.
I think so. All right, so just normal breaths in and out. Keep breathing normally in and out.
Oh, thank you.
Alrighty, Dr. Smith, we are ready for you.
Yeah.
Once I get them in, I'm allowed to, like, move,
Oh,
right?
you're gonna be able to
Yes.
breathe.
Okay, great. It's just for this moment, because you're sticking them in, I gotta be perfectly still
He's
like
just
this.
numbing you.
Okay, that's
We're doing EMG here this time around, and that started basically about the 1980s, or so a little bit before that. I personally have had done EMG on my larynx and when I've made my sounds, and that was back in about 1980. But it's not easy. A laryngologist has to practice. The person did it on me, said I would never do it on a human before I've done this 100 times on an animal or an excised larynx. So it's a matter of evolving with the technique.
So, Will, what's happening right now is Dr. Smith is placing markings on the anatomical spot where the muscle will be. So that tells him and indicates once he gets in where to and first do the lidocaine numbing, and then to guide him as he's placing these electrodes into the muscle. So you've got two markings down where you and I kind of talked about at the cricothyroid muscle on your left and your right. You've got a marking on the left and the right of your thyroarytenoid, and then a left and the right on the thyrohyoid, and then one right underneath your chin, which we call the submandibular complex or base of tongue muscles. In research, we've used laryngeal EMG to study different muscle activations in disorders like tremor or dystonia, and placing the electrodes is very much the same from patient to patient. So you're gonna get a needle. So here.
Okay.
Let's start with.
Medicine that the dentist uses. Without stitches.
One of the most amazing parts about the EMG was seeing Dr. Marshall Smith place the needles in Will's neck. Now, most people need some sort of assisted guidance to do this. They will listen to sound while they're placing these and see if they've essentially gotten into an activated muscle area. He does it just completely by feel, by touch.
Ouchie.
Nice. I was wondering, you weren't even flinching.
Oh, it was ouchie.
He understands the laryngeal anatomy so well, and he's also able to differentiate that among different patients. Will has this incredible torsion when he sings a lot of times, a twist, and that did not make any problem in Dr. Marshall Smith's placement of these needles. He did it by touch. He just like went in and was like, feel that individual muscle, and then up and in there, and he gets inside, like goes inside to these tiny, tiny muscles, and he nailed every single muscle.
So we're gonna place the first electrode in. Excellent. Yep, I feel a little more of a poke. Do all of our audio setup at the end.
You have an electrode.
You have an electrode. Number one done. You doing okay?
We're here for it.
You're doing great.
We're making it. I thought it was gonna be something else. It ended up being not as bad as I thought, thank God. But there were points when I was going through it that I was like, this is gonna be very strange. Now I see
what I was saying.
what you're talking about.
Yes. What do you feel?
Feels like I have something literally in the muscle that I scream with and talk with.
Yes.
Which is a crazy feeling, because the more I talk, I feel it. This is interesting because it was literally like, you get these little needles. He's literally showing me that they're like this big. They're so tiny, and it looks like this. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's just putting this little piece in, which is, by the way, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So I'm like, this is gonna be so easy, no problem. And then I'm just sitting there, he gives me the lidocaine. I'm like, just waiting for it. I'm like, what? This is not good. Like I said, 1/8 of an inch, no problem.
All right, this one's going into your tongue. Nice.
So Will,
Hello.
is this one of the weirdest experiences you've ever had in your throat?
Never in my life did I think this would ever happen, or anything even close to this, to be honest. This is crazy.
And then I start to feel him just like sticking them in there, and I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay, you're probably not gonna go any further than that, I'm like, it's in there. I can feel it's in my neck. And then he goes a little further, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, wow, I feel that in the muscle that I would associate, or if I was gonna do a scream or something. So in my mind, I'm like, that's it, he's there, he made it. And then he was like, no, we're gonna go a little further. And I'm like, oh. And then sure enough, it was in there. And it was very scary, for sure, because I've never experienced, a needle like that.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marshall Smith. I'm the medical director here at the University of Utah Voice Disorders Clinic. I can show you a model here of how we place the needle electrodes to study the laryngeal muscles. On the outside here, you can see this muscle here, the cricothyroid muscle. And so through the neck, a little needle is inserted right into the muscle. And then as the needle is withdrawn, the wires that are little hooks that are like a little barb, as you pull the needle out, the barbs stay embedded in the muscle. And the tips of the wires are bare or uninsulated so that when the muscle contracts, the electrical potential between the two wires can be measured, and that is an indication of muscle activity. So the stronger the muscle contracts, the more electrical signals are discharged, and we can record those on the machine, on the tracing, and we can do multiple muscles at the same time. So we put a hook wire in this muscle, and then on the other side in this muscle, and then 2 electrodes went internally underneath the thyroid cartilage into the TA or thyroarytenoid muscles. Those are the main muscles that are active with speaking or singing in chest register phonation. And then an additional wire was placed up above here into the tongue, into the base of the tongue to study its activity.
All right, Will, you are done with the pokes.
Thank God.
Set you up a little bit.
Don't say that, as long as they're all in place.
Yeah, they're in, but
Work it out, yes.
now we have to verify that they're in the right place.
We love you, Will.
Me too.
I better get the best Bajaka show after this, I swear to
You're
God.
helping me cook, man.
No, you're sitting
Oh.
down and relaxing.
Oh.
Right.
Science,
And telling Kurt how to cook.
I'm drinking whiskey and I'm watching. I'll rip the time up though, don't worry. I got that. That
That's
much
right.
I got.
Yeah.
I have to say, emotionally, watching Will go through the EMG was a little bit rough. It was more discomfort than I thought it was going to be. We understand Will is very sensitive in here. Most professional vocalists are quite sensitive. Will is especially so. And that's helped him to develop his sound and be sensitive to if he was doing anything that was harmful and back off. That sensitivity is a huge asset to Will and to many professional singers. So when you put stuff in their neck, I think he was just more sensitive than we had expected.
This feels crazy. Even talking, it feels like someone's trying to choke me with blades for hands, but only at the ends, not like, like literally just like
Edward Scissor.
like Edward Scissorhands, but just like getting poked directly in my neck, not like getting tattooed at all. Tattooing is so on the surface. This is just, I really feel like it's inside of my voice. Like if you had like a really bad vocal day, and now it's the next day, that's what it feels like.
You're feeling the inside. We're going to listen to the inside now. So we're looking at the left TA. And go ahead and hold out an E. Beautiful. Take a breath. I want you to glide down. Beautiful. Take
take a breath, and I want you to go up to your highest note now.
Oh, oof, ouch.
You all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The higher I go, the more ouch.
Okay.
The muscles engage, I think, a lot more than we see in cleans or in perhaps a clinical patient where we're trying to specifically focus on maybe some sort of pathology. In Will's case, there's so much muscle engagement, and I could tell that it was really uncomfortable.
And I want you to repeat in a high pitch. Take a breath.
I could almost pinpoint it because of the electrodes are in there, where I'm like, whoa, I want to start activating this muscle. But it feels like I could feel the electrode already like poking me there. So, you know, that was probably the weirdest part, especially just trying to figure out how to just work through that. You know, certain techniques, like me trying to hit my higher notes, was very difficult.
Swallow. Quick.
That feels crazy.
There was one specific spot that was like right in the middle, I guess at the base of my tongue, the base of the tongue muscle. And that was the one that I didn't, it was probably the most uncomfortable out of all of them.
I think Will was even expressing, you know, we could feel this exact muscle right here, and that's what we were hoping to accomplish, to capture. Having that electrode gave him the feeling during each of those screams, and then now we get to go back and look at the muscle activation. How is that area, the submental, different from the thyroarytenoid or the thyrohyoid space?
I want you to repeat E, 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 E. Beautiful. And then hold your breath and bear down. Excellent. And a swallow. Fantastic. I'm gonna go to left
What a
CT.
sensation.
When we isolate out individual muscles in EMG, because the electrode is only gathering information from one muscle at a time on its own channel that we can see, we can start to break down what is the contribution of that muscle to that scream. So when we start to dive into the data of all of these different things, what is Will's difference in his false chord scream to the moose, to a clean? What percentage of each muscle does he use for each scream? How can we profile those two things, layer them to see how we can better understand the uniquenesses of each scream?
So we had all those 7 muscles being recorded simultaneously while we recorded his voice, his respiratory activity with rib cage movement, and also internally looking at what the throat is doing on the inside with a laryngoscopic camera.
All right, I want you to just do a nice, comfortable
Down a little bit.
when you're ready.
E.
When you start to expand the use of EMG to an artist like Will, who utilizes so many different structures, we met a point at which things like his cleans felt very normal to him, things that we've done before in research in singers.
My, those eyes like fire, I'm a wind insect, you're a funeral pyre. Singing's okay.
Let's go straight to some tube and throat singing. Nice. Why don't you start with a false chord? Let's just do a bass false chord scream.
The easier techniques for me were my false chord screams, so like things like things that I would consider that would use those muscles. So like tube and throat singing, that was no problem. It didn't feel like I was getting stabbed too uncomfortably in a place that would stop me from being able to do that. I noticed when I was doing the slides, especially switching into my falsetto, like the higher register, it felt almost so uncomfortable.
Oh shit, that
Don't
freaking
pull as
hurts.
high as you want.
You know, as far as this is, I started to put it together in my mind where, like, even when I'm doing like a glide or slide and I'm at the top note, I almost feel like when I'm doing like certain screams, like a fry scream, what I would consider to be a fry scream, like one of those really higher upper constriction screams, slash a tunnel, or not a tunnel, a tea kettle scream, which is very much similar, I would think. It was very difficult to do it because it was similar to the same sensation that I was getting when I was trying to go up into that higher register. Because the higher I would get, I'd be like, ooh, that's very uncomfortable. And so now I'm trying to hit these much higher notes in a screaming, form. And as I'm doing it and I'm starting to approach those higher notes, I'm noticing that it is very uncomfortable.
Wow, it's really uncomfortable to do a lot of these things, I'm gonna tell you right now.
When we asked him to do some screams, something interesting happened.
Let's try a fry scream and see what happens.
Oh no.
No, no.
Oh no. Oh no, there's no way.
As you're watching the muscle activations, you could see Will begin to posture. His muscles began to move, to mobilize to the scream that he was trying to think to do. And then for him, what he experienced was an inability to do that.
No way?
Can I
No
tell you
way.
something that's cool? Your body, like the anticipatory posture, is actually kind of cool in and of itself, even before you vocalize.
Great.
Sorry.
I'm glad you like that.
I do.
Those fries just feel incredibly uncomfortable with all this shit going on.
Probably because he has so much TA. Yep.
Okay.
Can you just go like this? Can you just go, Is that the sensation you get?
No,
Okay.
definitely not. That's a lot easier
That
to
is
do.
easier. Good.
Try a tunnel. Just try one that feels the best to try.
Wow, these all feel crazy. Turn a little bit to
Can
the
I
right.
reassure you of one thing? It feels crazy. It's not impacting your muscle. You're still getting activation.
Okay.
Your brain feels it. I understand that completely. But please know you're not hurting yourself right now, okay?
Cool.
Okay.
I have this one moose scream that I've learned from a very good friend of mine, and that is a scream that has a lot of breath pressure going on.
Moose scream. Any chances of that happening?
Oh shit! No way! No. These just like with all this shit in my throat right now.
I think for me, the more pressure that I started to put into these screams, the more uncomfortable I was feeling.
What about like the phrase from Into the Earth or Riptide,
Yep,
maybe
yep.
starting a piece of
Just
that?
like a phrase.
All right, let's turn to the right a little bit.
Okay,
I'm bringing you
put
with
your
me.
hand, yeah,
I'm
go.
bringing you with me.
You are.
Let's go. Oh, those don't want to do it.
His throat looked very healthy. The vocal folds themselves, the true vocal folds, did not look swollen or red or inflamed. The tissues looked like they were healthy.
That was
This is like me trying to scream without as much breath pressure as I would normally do, because I think it would be the more breath pressure, the more uncomfortable this is.
The ideas and the things that are coming out of Will and his contribution to what he experienced, to what we were seeing, it's only going to lead to better and better science and better understandings and more methodologies, more unique tools designed to target artists who don't meet the run-of-the-mill standard vocalization patterns that we've come to see to date.
Water me up.
Yep.
Like a plant.
water me like a plant.
Take a few chugs and just really slow a few
Do
times
not push
through.
yourself too hard. I just
Yeah.
wanted to reassure you.
Let's try goblins next then. Nice.
The sound don't sound right, but we're getting as close as we can get to
Yeah,
it, so.
that has a little more of the nasal bulb, which is weird with the wire in it. Nice. Nice.
What it appeared to be happening is that on the inside of the throat, instead of the true vocal folds making the sound, this comes apart, and you can see the vocal folds on the inside right here. There's also other structures that can vibrate to produce sound besides the true vocal folds. Just like you can produce any sound by bringing tissue together and blowing air through it and making it vibrate, like your lips going. And so in the throat, we can do that by constricting we have true vocal folds, but the false vocal folds can also close together and vibrate to produce sound. Or in the back of the voice box here, we have these two arytenoid cartilages, and they're connected by a muscle called the interarytenoid muscle. This is a hard muscle to study because it's way in the back. But you can squeeze the arytenoids together and then blow air through them and get them to oscillate. Because they have a heavier mass, the pitch is much lower. So to produce these sounds, it appeared that what he was doing was keeping the true vocal folds slightly separated to keep the air blowing through them, but then squeezing these tissues above them. And the oscillation of those tissues with the air going through produced the low pitch vibrations that created his growling voice, screams, overtone singing, all the different sounds that he could produce. So he makes these sounds, and then the sound created by that vibration goes up into the vocal tract, our resonating chamber. And then by adjusting the posture of the tongue, the lateral pharyngeal walls, the palate, you can create a resonance pattern to amplify certain tones to enhance the resonance and create the perception of two-tone or double-tone singing, overtone singing.
I'm gonna pull the scope out, Derek.
Okay.
Oh, booger.
Stop my recording.
Don't look at me.
I got that in 4K.
Don't look at me. I got a booger.
You're wild.
I bet you have many.
Oh, no.
We all have a lot of them, it's fine.
Fortunately, we made it through, and then by the time we took it all out, I was still a little bit sore in this spot. So instead of taking 1,000 milligram Tylenol, I took like a lower dose because I knew it wasn't like really, really sore. It was just a little bit sore. And I woke up this morning feeling 100% again. So that's good. Yeah, all you need is a little Tylenol once and a good night's rest.
As we compare a clean vocalization to a scream, we now know from the imaging of Will's upper throat that there were different structures that were involved. And the goal of this EMG was to capture those different muscles and how they were activating or to working, seeing if we could isolate out those individual muscles. What we found was we were able to do that successfully. We found all of the muscles of his throat that we wanted to. We confirmed, we verified, and then we had him produce his cleans and his screams. And there was a dramatic difference between those two for him. What he felt and what he experienced were different. What we saw in the signals were different. And that difference, I always say, is what makes the difference. It's what makes his sound unique to him. It's what makes a scream unique from a clean or a pure tone sound that we hold when we talk. These differences inherently are what excites us as scientists.
Have you had MRIs before?
If I did it, it was when I was a really little kid. So
Okay,
I
so
don't
you don't
remember. It was like, I vaguely remember being in a machine like that. That's about it.
Okay.
So,
Are you wearing like a shirt under your hoodie?
yes, I'm gonna take this off
Okay.
for sure. I
Yeah,
already
that
feel
does
it's a little
have
toasty in here.
Okay. So you can go ahead and get your piercings out.
Cool.
Put them in this cup here.
When was the last time you took that piercing out?
I've never taken it out, yeah.
He was born with it.
Pretty much was. Ever since I got it, I was like, that's just gonna stay there forever. There was one thing that I noticed. I mean, when I do vocals, sometimes I turn my head slightly to the right to get like the ideal sound that I like. So I'm not sure if there's a way that you could like position my body where it's just like, maybe it's a little bit like this, so this way my neck, I'm still pointing straight, but my whole body
Yeah,
is
we can roll
slightly
you up a little bit. We can put you in whatever position you want. It's
Right.
just staying in that position. That's the important thing. We can angle our stack to wherever we need, but the important thing is just
staying like
maintaining
that for 2 hours,
Yeah.
basically, or however long you'll be in there for. Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally fine, yeah.
All right.
So you're going to be anything?
I feel like I'm forgetting something. I know I'm not, but now I'm all nervous. I'm like...
We have this deathcore artist who has allowed us to get on the inside, to dig into literally the muscles of his body that allow him to give the sound and the joy to his audience as people. As scientists, we get so excited about the uniquenesses that each artist offers, and Will doesn't have one unique skill set. He has dozens, if not multiple hundreds of different things that he is able to do.
Alright, so this part is what we're using to scan your vocal cords. It's called an MRI coil. It's just going to rest over your neck like this.
Will, you're a cyborg.
I am now. Look at me. If my mom saw this, she'd be so concerned. Whoa.
Now we've got your
They're
space.
expanding.
Your space helmet.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh shit, I'm looking down.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Oh, that's what the mirror's from. I can see my hand.
Oh, you can see your hand. Okay. All right,
Hi.
we're good. Okay, that's so you don't have to look at the inside of the machine.
Oh, thank God.
Not that the walls...
Makes you feel a little bit less contained.
It was interesting to actually be put into this machine that was so much tighter than I thought it was going to be. So much so, actually, they give you like a placebo effect mirror thing so that you can look at the mirror and see your feet. This way you don't have to feel like you're enclosed in this like casket, basically, is kind of what it felt like. I was like, wow, it kind of feels like I'm on tour all over again. I'm kind of comfortable, also a little anxious in this thing, but it was really cool.
Temperature-wise, you okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. These are just going to be between you and the inside of the scanner. And just rest them down. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send me in.
Okay.
Whoa.
See you tomorrow. I'm going to put...
That's as far in as we're going? That's crazy.
No.
Okay, I was about to say, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
So the best part is the MRI is what all of us were the most excited about. This is the one opportunity that we had to capture everything from the mouth down to the throat, in each scream. How does all of this interact with each other? We've spoken about how there are different components of each research that we're going to put together. MRI was the one thing that we knew we would see the entire picture of Will. The scanner is going to start to make some noises. Your job right now is to just lay there nice and still. Let it run. We're doing sagittals of all of his screams with his different filters and his different tongue positionings. And then we're going to switch and take just a handful of those in the for the glottis, doing the interleaving of the two slices above and below, so we can try and capture any of the reflection of the glottis in the axial. And then we're going to do an entire vocal tract reconstruction on, I think Elizabeth wanted to do 6. So we'll scan through. He knows he's going to have to do 12 different repetitions of them.
12 repetitions of each?
Yeah, at 10 seconds each. If he fatigues, then we'll call it, because I think there'll be so much artifact from how he contorts.
MRI imaging and CT imaging that's now being done is getting so much better in terms of the detail, millimeter by millimeter, that we can look at and then see the vibration. And then the next thing I should mention, a lot of it has to do today with simulation, because we can't measure everything. What we do, we make the most clever measurements that are very important, and then we can predict a lot of it with mathematics and simulation.
All right, before we get started on your tasks, I just want to talk you through a couple of things that are going to happen. I know we've discussed this before with MRI, but your job is to remain as still as possible with the shoulders, your head, and even into the abdomen and your breathing. When you need to take that big breath, I want you to take a big belly breath, just as you normally would do, and try and not take the breath up into the shoulders. All right, we're going to start this first one. It says that on your clean awe, really try to think about your own internal pitch, just comfortable pitch, comfortable loudness, despite what the scanner may be doing. Just in your head, kind of think about your own chest. Okay, go ahead and take your nice, comfortable, big breath in. In 3, 2, 1. tongue tip, vocal folds down, open pharynx, what we'd expect for an E. Soft palate's closed. You see how he's got a little bit of that movement? We see that same thing on the scope. It's so long.
It's pretty though. You don't.
That is fantastic, and your images are beautiful, Will. Are you ready for tea kettles or no?
I mean, no time like the present, right?
Okay. You've got a tea kettle scream in 3, 2, 1. How far down the soft palate goes. I had Ingo Titsa sitting in the background, collaborating with him, turning around, thinking to myself, oh my God, did everyone else just experience what I experienced? Did everyone else just see what I saw? And you're holding your breath as he's going through a scream, and we've got 20 seconds of him being able to do this continuously. Did you just like have a competition with yourself to beat the machine?
I don't know.
That one was easy. I don't know what magic just happened, but that was really cool. We're gonna get into your fry screams. 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, it's vastly different. Look at the tongue tip.
I wish you guys could have been backstage. It was like we're at a sporting event or something. There were so many researchers that were watching with their jaws drop. I'm like, whoa, wait, is that his tongue? Wait, did his tongue just go up like that? No, wait, is it twisting? That was great. And then seeing all of the like different closures down, and also the way everything kind of twisted to one side, because we know that Will does this torsion thing, but we saw it in a different way on the MRI. It was just oohs and ahs and excited whispers.
Look at his lips. You see why I wanted you to bring it out? Yes. Okay, we're just styling a little.
Cool.
Just wait till you see these.
That's so weird when I can't hear it properly. It doesn't feel like I can seesaw balance it right.
Stop.
We're gonna figure it out, I guess.
In 3, 2, 1. There we go. Yes. Oh, wow.
That feels wrong.
That feels wrong.
I can't hear it. It's fucking stupid.
The commentary in between the. No, Will, they're awesome. Take a moment and tell us what you were thinking when you were in there. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's like, since I can't hear it, it just sounds like absolute garbage right now. It's going through my head. I can't, fucking hear the actual projections.
I was shocked by how well Will did. When he's in there, he cannot hear anything. The machine is so loud, and he has headphones that are not giving him some sort of feedback back on his sound. It's actually dampening all sound around him. So he's so used to performing with something like an in-ear, or at least being able to hear himself acoustically, or he'll cup his hand over his ear when he's practicing, and he had none of that feedback. It's really hard to make your sounds without that feedback.
Okay, we're gonna do that false chord scream mid to start.
It's consistent, his little sort of tongue up. But he actually did a really good job. I found that he was quite consistent, and this was also after days of testing. So he was tired by this point, even though he seemed very energetic still. I was like, you're starting to get a tiny bit tired, aren't you? You had a needle in your throat yesterday. Maybe you're a little tired. But he just was a total champ. He blasted through it and had amazing consistency across the board.
When I want to do this, I almost want to put my chin down. As I was doing these screams more and differentiating the different sound sources, I started to realize the little micro movements that my body wanted to do. Like, for instance, the back of my neck over here started to hurt because I wasn't fully propped up in the position that I like to do
when I'm live, which is like looking to the right like this. And then when you see, if you look online and you see all the photos of me on Instagram, I'm usually like this every time. I'm very rarely like this, and you'll never see me like this or on the left side. And so like as I'm starting to do these things in this MRI machine, I'm like, my neck is hurting because my head wants to look this way, but they're like, don't move. And I'm like, holy crap. And all I see is this mirror that's like shooting down at my feet and also my tongue, which was kind of strange, but I'm not gonna lie, I learned a lot about my tongue that like in that moment, because I was doing these fry screams and like these other things that I didn't realize how much of the tongue is actually being used, because I can't look at myself, obviously. And I just see my tongue just kind of like sticking out, doing its thing, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. I never realized how much of that I used in my scream.
You get the frequency of that toe movement.
I know.
Throw me in the pan with sizzle.
Love it.
Happy feet right now.
You have been doing a lot of harsh vocals for about an hour and 10 minutes. How are you feeling vocally?
I mean, it'd be better if I had water.
Okay.
Fine.
No, I'm gonna be like. So each slice I have to go through and segment out the area, all of the black, and define each boundary. And like someone going, oh, that's pretty consistent. Each slice is going to be very different. The most amazing part of the MRI, if I'm going to talk about any type of manipulation, any type of contortion, was Will's tongue. Every single scream, every single maneuver of those screams incorporated different posturings of the tongue, whether that was the tongue coming out of the lips, whether that was the tongue being retracted back, whether that was some portions of the tongue being elevated, some coming down and moving forward. Sometimes he even split the tongue, and so that the air was coming between, creating little channels of air pockets within his mouth. Look at that.
Like Popeye.
He gave that one up. Never have I ever seen, Will calls them tunnels, sides and fronts. And when Elizabeth first kind of sent me the ideas of the different screams that he wanted to do, I kind of had a hard time conceptualizing what exactly he was doing. And I kind of asked her, like, can you send me a sound? Can you explain to me what this means? And it was the first time I saw him in the sound booth recording some of these sounds where I was like, oh, that's a tunnel. He flips his tongue over, screams, opens his mouth, and keeps that tongue in that position. And then he does a front posture where he rounds the edges of his tongue, pulls it back. And I looked at Elizabeth and I said, I cannot wait to see this on MRI. I cannot wait to see all of this in combination with all of the other structures as he's creating these screams. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Kind of creepy.
He's the first ever metal artist that's let anyone put a camera in his throat and actually look at his screams. And Elizabeth asked me, what do you think was the most exciting thing or the most unique thing that you saw? And my immediate response was everything. I had never seen anything like this on an MR. I had never seen any type of tongue movement. I had never seen any type of pharyngeal movement, laryngeal movement, changes in height, constrictions, expansions. The uniqueness of each sound that we were able to isolate on MR was absolutely incredible.
Good job, buddy. You still alive?
I'm alive. I can't hear you. I can barely hear you. I'm alive.
All right, let's see how we undertake this. Yes,
Oh, thank God. Oh. Wow. Wow.
Today was an experience. We made it through. Mom, I survived. I didn't get hit by any air tanks. So this is good. And I very much look forward to doing it again with everybody on the team because they're just fantastic.
And I'm free. Wow. Oh shit, what is that? What's this thing? We did it. Boom.
I am struck by the immense amount of data that we have this opportunity to go through, which is going to take years for us to even begin to hit the tip of the iceberg to understand the vocal productions, the science, the perception, the listener's understanding of what's going on.
There's going to be a ton of time involved in sifting through this. And then you all heard me, that one of my biggest goals is to make that data available to researchers everywhere. I think it's going to be really difficult not only to sift through it, but to catalog it in a way that makes sense to people and get the stuff that's most useful, put that in front of other researchers. But how do they know where to go to find it? We're going to need to figure out that platform and need to figure out how they have access to it and still protect patient rights at the same time. That is tricky, but we are going to do it.
The impact of artists like Will allowing us to study them and taking these opportunities to really hone into each of these different methodologies that we've put him through in the past 3 days allows us as scientists to collaborate, to take each of our strengths and try and understand vocally what is happening in all of the artistry of vocalization.
The fact that I was even a part of this whole research study is incredible. I'm so thankful to the team. You know, Amanda's fantastic, Ingo, everybody. We're part of the Charismatic voice, Elizabeth, Kirk, Gina. Everybody's fantastic. It's very welcoming and it feels warm to come out to a place like this. It doesn't feel like I'm doing too much or like anything is too much is asked of me. So I feel very comfortable being out here and I look forward to doing it again. For science. Yeah.
So there was a thought of mine that in the future, if I want other artists to do this, I'm just gonna have to be really straightforward and say this is not comfortable. I thought it was gonna be easier.
If you are a vocalist out there and you are seeing this message and you get asked to do some charismatic voice things, will say, I think you should do it, look into it. You can learn a lot about not only yourself, but the things that you are completely incapable of doing, especially with the needles in your throat or suspended in a little tube where you can't exactly move. But if there's anything that I've taken from all this, is that I've learned more about me, the things that I can do on not just a dynamic level, but like on a sensational level. And it's helped me, and I know it's gonna help every single one of you guys. So take advantage of these things because you only get one voice. You know, everybody else has a billion instruments out there. The worst thing you can do is ignore it because once you lose it, it's gone.
Before we wrap this up, I just have to say thank you. Thank you to everyone involved. This has been huge. Thank you, Will, for letting us stick needles in your neck, put you in a DMRI. Thank you for making it possible to do harsh vocal research and being patient zero. Thank you to the University of Utah Health. We are so grateful to be allowed to film on your campus and conduct this research. Thank you to Dr. Amanda Stark for organizing everything and of course running that DMRI. Thank you to Dr. Ingo Tietze, Dr. Marshall Smith, and Dr. Lynn Maxfield as well. You guys are incredible. Thank you for bringing your expertise to this entire situation. And thank you to Kirk McCune, who is just amazing in all of the ways and has done all of the filming and the lighting and bringing us to one location and helping us stay on task, supporting us in every single possible way. And then thank you to all of our viewers. You guys are really the ones that make this possible. This video wouldn't exist unless you were here. So thank you for watching and being a total vocal nerd along with me. Boom, boom.
This is how you replay me. I can't believe I ever considered your family. I will never forget this life. You listen my block. Say it to my face. Let my fucking nose. This is what you pay. Shut the fuck. Just